There we go. Okay, we are set for our weekly golden conversations with experts. And our expert this week is Mitali Deypurkaystha.
Oh,
How did I do
that's
on that
so
name?
good. That was spot on. If I can give you a gold medal through the internet over the Atlantic, I would right now, Steve, if I could.
Well, thank you. I've been working on that one. So I've even been working on being able to type it out because it's like, okay, there are lots of consonants, only a handful of vowels. And I'm like, okay, which vowel goes where?
You did very well.
Anyway, so Matali and I met a few months ago, and one of the things that I've enjoyed seeing is the prep, the launch, and the post of Matali's book, The Freedom Master Plan. And I've also really enjoyed, and I've got to admit, confess, I'm only about a third of the way through the book right now, but I am really enjoying what I'm reading in there. So Mitali, how are you doing? And
It's
we
been a
talked a
while.
little bit about how the house is kind of falling apart around you right now. But
Yeah, I've just been concentrating so much on the book and the business that I didn't realize my house is falling apart. And you know how it is. Everything holds up and then it all falls apart at the same time. It'd be nice if it spread itself out a little bit, but no. So but yeah, it's I think I said to you, it's first world problems. I live in a country where I can just call a guy and he comes and sorts out my heating, and I can call a guy and he comes and sorts out my washer dryer. There's so many people all over the world who do not, well, they don't even have a washer dryer to fix. So
right.
I can't complain really. It's just been one of those days when, I've not got much done. And I just feel like I could have just stayed under my duvet today. I wouldn't actually be any less further on in my life if I just stayed. But like I said, there's not really anything to complain about.
That's good perspective. And one of the things I like about what you bring to the work that you do is a lot of perspective. You know, and maybe that's what we ought to start out with is, on my Courage to Shine summit, you told the story about how your life was not actually heading in the direction that you dreamed of, but and that struggle that many of us have experienced where our parents want us to live one way and we're
Mhm.
like, that doesn't feel so good. So can you tell us a little bit about how your journey began and how you got to where you are right now?
Well, I've always wanted to write, Steve. So, well, I think first of all, it just comes from being an avid reader. So, my mother tells me that the very first time she dropped me off at nursery, that's kindergarten to all the people in the States, because I know I figured that you guys don't call it nursery. And she just remembers me running off, to into this ocean of children. And I was a very precocious child. I wasn't sort of like the clingy, please don't leave me, mother. I was more like, mom, who? And off I went. And I was just really excited. There's all these other little human beings that I can speak to. Um, what I had no concept of at the age of 4, oldest of 4 kids. Therefore, my parents only spoke Bengali to me.
Hmm.
And at the age of 4, I had no concept that A, there's other languages, and B, I wasn't speaking the main language of this country. I was 4 years old. How could I have any concept of that sort of thing? Um, so there I was speaking very loud Bengali, animated Bengali to all these kids, and all these kids look at me going, I mean, I stuck out like a sore thumb anyway. I was brought up in a place called Gateshead in the northeast of England, which still, even in 2021, isn't huge when it comes to multiculturalism. It's not
Hmm.
like London or, where you get people from all over the planet there. And definitely growing up in the early 80s, I was the only non-white child in the whole place. So
Hmm.
I was a bit of an oddity in the first place. And then here I come speaking this very strange language that nobody could understand. And I must have quickly realized that no one speaks the way I speak. And my mother tells me I ran off into the corner library And she says for the next year, every time she'd drop me off at nursery, I'd run off to the library. And when she'd pick me up, I was still at the library, to the point where my teacher had to buy new books at the end of the year because I'd finished all the books in the library. I know. Yeah, I was quite annoying like that. I was like, I need new books. I don't remember this because I was 4 years old, Steve. So I don't remember this. All I know, I don't know, maybe somehow I'd made the link between books and communication, or maybe it wasn't even that. Maybe I wasn't actually clever enough to think and make the link. Maybe it was just feeling bad, feeling like, well, I can't hang out with these kids. I might as well go and make my own fun. And I went off to, maybe that's all it was. I don't know why, but that's why the reading came into it.
Mm,
And then because I was reading so much, it was a natural progression to then want to write. So
mm,
I've always had a love for writing. But typically for Indian parents who have a daughter who's slightly academic, they wanted her to be a doctor.
mm,
So that was what I was meant to be. Um, and in all fairness, I was happy to be a doctor up until the age of, it was 16. So I'd finished doing, we call them GCSEs here. I don't know, you must have an equivalent over in the US, which is the first sort of big qualifications that you get, you leave
mm,
high school kind of thing. And then we have something after that, which is called A levels. And those are the qualifications that will help you get to university. So I finished my GCSEs, got really good grades, and I'd already picked my subjects for the A levels. And I'd specifically picked subjects that will help me study medicine at university. And then at 16, I was given the opportunity to go to a writer's summer camp in Edinburgh University. And my parents were happy for me to go. They didn't stop me. They never didn't see, you know, they didn't see writing as a threat to medicine. They saw it as a hobby, and a hobby that made me happy. As did I. I never saw it as anything else but it's just something I love doing. But when I went to that summer camp, I ended up co-writing an episode of a well-known soap in the UK. And that changed everything for me, because I think before that, yeah, I was getting amazing grades for English and English literature at school, but I'm not knocking teachers. Teachers are wonderful. They're inspiring, but teachers are telling me that I was great at writing. But I always kind of got the feeling, well, isn't that a teacher's job to be enthusiastic about their students? Even their worst students are trying to be enthusiastic about. But to have these other group of people that are not teachers to have faith in me and say, yeah, we think you could write an episode of this well-known
mm.
soap here in the UK. That's what just made me think, maybe there's a career in writing that I never thought of. And that's when everything changed. And I ended up disappointing my parents, ditching the subjects that I picked, completely changing them for subjects like English literature and things like that. So yeah, that's how it happened. That was when my life kind of, you have that movie Sliding Doors.
Mhm.
That was my my first sliding door moment, really, in that I could have come back from summer camp and just said, okay, I had fun, but my life is medicine. And
Mm.
I'd probably I always thought I'd be a surgeon. So I'd probably cutting people open and doing all that kind of stuff. That's really what I would be doing.
A very different life. Well, honestly, with writing, it's you cut people open in a different type of way.
Oh gosh, I never thought, wow, I might just steal that, Steve. That's really good. Yeah. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, it's sort of more in an emotional and a mental sense. Yeah, you do. That's quite interesting that you said that, because a lot of people ask me, because I've become well known now as a business book expert, and they say, but it's a business book, so you don't really. I mean, people don't have to put a lot of themselves into them, because it's a business book. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Have you read any of the biggest business books out there? It's all about the author. It's all about, them putting themselves into the book. Because, I always say business book, well, all kinds of books, it's very difficult to make a living off book sales themselves.
Mm.
You have to shift an awful lot of books because they are a low value item. Not in terms of content. Please don't mean in terms of content. There's been several books in my life that have been life changing, so not in terms of content, But in terms of what you can charge for them, I
Mhm.
mean, the average Kindle goes for what, $2.99, $3.99. The average paperback about $10. That's an awful lot of books you need to sell to make a comfortable living. So most people who are selling books, especially business books, but all kinds of books, usually have other stuff. So with business books, what you tend to find, entrepreneurs have services and programs and courses that they're selling in the back end. That's where the money is. And what the book does is lead people to those other services and programs. I have a wonderful friend who is a children's author, and she's very clever. She's created all this merchandise. And
Mhm.
there's a game that happens within the book, and she now sells the game. A bit like, you know, how Quidditch is now played as a proper game, but it's birthed in Harry Potter. She's stolen that idea, and now there's a game in the book, but now she sells the game. And that's why she's doing well. She's not sat there thinking, oh, I'll just sell loads of my children's books. She knows there's only a few, she's in the UK, there's only a few pounds that she can charge for a book.
Mm.
But if you have the merchandise behind it and kids really love it, you know, they love the characters and they want to play the game, that's where the money is. So it's interesting that you said that about, you know, I'm cutting people open, not physically, but that's what I do. You know, I get so many students who want to just write a, you know, a boring, dry textbook. And I'm like, are you planning on selling this to universities? If no, then this is not going to work.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
know, you need to put yourself into the book. That's what people are going to love about it.
absolutely. And one of the things that I contend is that, you know, all the ideas that are in business are wonderful, but in order for us to really apply them, we have to understand the story behind them, right?
So
Even
true.
when I was in accounting and dealing with numbers like day in, day out, the question that I would frequently ask the department heads was, you know, what's the story behind this number? You know, how did this number get to be this number? And we're talking strictly business, but I want to know what the story is, because if this, in order to really understand the number, you know, why did you spend $60,000 on whatever, you know, in the last quarter? I had to understand what the story was there. It wasn't just the number, you know, so there is story everywhere. And, you know, the more that we can dig into either ourselves or into our clients or whatever through story, the better that we understand the context in which that story is playing out, in which those business ideas are playing out, right?
Absolutely. I would say it's even further than that. And you'll understand this. I love how you call yourself the story strategist, don't you? And I
Story
love that, you
architect.
know. I love that. I love that idea because it is all about stories as oh gosh, I've forgotten. This is quite a famous copywriter. I don't think it was Dan Kennedy, was it? I forget. One of the big, you know, great copywriters.
Sure.
And there was a story of, you know, him going into this company that created furniture, and their sales are just getting lower and lower. This is during the time where flat pack had been invented. You know, you
Mm,
had the IKEAs and those kinds of
sure.
people undercutting, you know, the traditional furniture stores out there. And this copywriter was brought in to write the copy for the new adverts. So he said, well, you know, I want to spend a day with you. And, you know, the owner was a bit flummoxed, like, why? Just I'll send you all the stuff about all the different furniture that I do. Just you weave your magic and write fancy, because that's a lot of people think copywriting is just fancy words. You know, I mean, just put
Mm,
fancy words together. And I always say, no, a copywriter's job is to find the story.
mm,
And that's what he did. He spent a whole day with them. And he said, I want you to show me around and show me everything that you do. So, you know, the wood comes in, walk me around the whole factory, like what is happening. And
mm,
through that, he found out that they only use specific kind of wood because it was sustainable. That he found out that, you know, they had, I think they had some sort of tie up with a local school, which was specific to disabled children and giving them work experience. There's all this stuff going, and this company was not telling anybody about it. It's like those are the stories that people are interested in. You tell people that, you know, the reason why you choose to use sustainable wood, the reason why you're tied in with this local school for local children who are disabled. people will not leave they'll leave the flat pack now and go, you know what, this is a little bit more expensive, this furniture, but I like this place. I
Mhm.
like the stories. I like what they stand for. I'm going to pay a little bit extra and go with these guys instead of this faceless flat pack thing going on over here. But if you don't tell them those stories, then people are just going to go for value for money, and the flat pack one is cheap and they go
Right.
and it gets
Yes.
delivered in a week and you're just thinking, yeah, I'll just go with that. So yeah, I love what you do, because that's exactly what a copywriter does. It's not about fancy words. Find the stories, it's usually plural. Find the stories within your brand, within your business, within your staff. You can even talk about your staff and the stories that they bring in to your business. But that's what people like. I always say, think of the Bible. If you think about it, that should just be like a dictionary saying thou shalt do this and thou should not do that. And it's not, it's all story based. Why? Because stories work. Stories bed into your brain in a way that instructions, just dry instructions, will never do.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
was reading some quotes this morning, and I don't remember who said this, but a famous author, storyteller, said that if history were taught in stories, nobody would ever forget it. But because it's, remember such and such happened on, March
Oh,
5th,
yeah.
1493 or whatever, it's like, okay, I've got to memorize all this crap, and they take the story, strip it from the story out of it, and consequently it just goes in one ear and out the other.
I think that's why we all fell in love with The Crown over the last few years, even though some of that isn't always true. They have admitted they embellish quite a lot as well. But yeah, how fascinating is the royal family? If it was just like, well, this person became queen on this day, then she was, you'd be like, I'm bored already. But as soon as it's told in stories, you go, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. We're designed. I mean, I think a lot of people assume the stories are something that kids love, and then we grow out of it. We never grow out of it. We never, ever, ever grow out of stories, and we want to hear the stories and everything. I've done social media content before I became a book coach and a book publisher. I would write content for all kinds of things, and one of my clients hired me to write all of his social media content for Facebook and LinkedIn. And again, I had to explain to him, he thought I was just going to do loads of fancy words again, because copywriters use fancy words, of course, that's all we do. And then I was going to create these, posts that are going to sell his products and services. It's like, yeah, I'm still going to do that, because that's the whole point of a copywriter, but we're going to do it through story.
Mm.
You explain why you created a program, and then rather than just buy my nice shiny thing and then have I'm telling you, the story and then the buy button will convert a lot more than buy my shiny thing and then a button. So yeah, he got on board, and when he realized how it works. But stories, even in short form social media posts, always be thinking about stories that you can talk about.
Mm. So how does story play out in a book? And one of the things that you said in your book was, you have to think of the book as the key to the treasure, not the treasure itself, right? So how does that play out in someone's business and someone's life, and where does story come into that?
Okay. Well, that's almost like a two-part question. So I'll attack it one after the other to make sure I explain it
Sure.
properly. So first of all, we're talking about stories. I'll give you another story here. And this is what I mean. I always talk in stories, because I know when I talk in stories, whatever I'm trying to teach or whatever I'm trying to convey hits home. And it's not just it hits home faster, it stays lodged in the brain longer
Mm.
than me just saying, oh, you should do this and you should do that because I'm an amazing book coach. You should just listen to me, instead of I just tell you in stories, it works. So the first point you made, which was, the book is a key to the treasure, not the treasure itself. What I mean by that is what I've said about 10 minutes ago, making a living off books. I'm not saying it can't be done. There are people who are doing it, but they are few and far between. If you think of how many authors are making a living from just their books and how many authors are penniless, there's a lot more penniless authors than authors making a very good living from their books. So that's what I mean about it. So I'll use myself as an example. So today I checked my Amazon account a couple of weeks ago. I think I've sold just under 8,000 units of my book. That's a mixture of Kindle and paperback. And that's actually above average, by
That's
the
way
way.
above
For
average.
for most people, you're looking at it's been I think it's 10 weeks ago, just over 10 weeks ago, that I released my book. So to have sold nearly 8,000 units in less than 3 months, that's actually really, really good. When I checked my Amazon account to see how much I've made, I think at the moment it's just shy of $4,000. Again, that's actually above average. I've actually done well. Most authors were looking at, they'll be struggling to hit $1,000 within the first quarter. So the fact that I've made nearly 4,000 bucks, I'm quite proud of myself. But if you think about it, how much time? So that's 10 weeks, nearly 3 months. So that works out at about $1,300 a month. I'm thinking of the blood and sweat and tears I put into my book, the hours I spent agonizing over it and going over it, then my editor going over it and all that stuff. And then, I went through about 5 different book covers. I couldn't make my mind up on which book cover I wanted. And I ended up going for the first one, which is typical. I did that thing that women do, go through 10 outfits to then put on the very first outfit. I did that with my book cover. All of that stuff, and I'm making about $1,300 a month. Would you say that was a good return on investment if all I was thinking of was making money from the book? I'm bearing in mind the sales are slowing down, as they will do, because you get a new release, you get the hype.
Right.
I'm expecting by the end of the year it will die down to making me maybe somewhere between $200 to $500 a month. Who the hell can live on that? You can't. But let me
Right.
tell you what happened outside of just book sales since my book release. So since then, I've had numerous people contact me and say, hey, read your book, think it's fantastic. I want to write a book. Can you please help me? I don't actually know how many calls I've had. Out of those calls, I've secured 5 new students, which in terms of money is been worth about $36,000 in 3 months, less than 3 months, in 10 weeks. Can you see what I mean by that? It's the key to the treasure. The book is the key to the treasure. It's not the treasure itself. If I didn't have my, 90-day program in the back end, if I didn't have a business where I teach people how to write their own books, I would have made $1,300 a month so far, and it's dying down. I can't live on $1,300. I mean, I don't know about you, but
Well, especially if the electrician's coming in and the
and
appliance.
the washer dryer guy, yeah, I don't want to tell you how much I've spent today on various things that have been broken in my house, but yeah, it's not a lot of money. But I'm not, in fact, I'm even thinking of aligning myself with a vegan charity. I've been vegan for 10 years, and it's something very close to my heart. And I'm actually thinking of aligning myself with a vegan charity so that any proceeds from the book, it just goes to the charity. I
Mm,
don't even care about making money from the book. It's more about getting it out there, getting it consumed by people, so that anyone who's interested in writing a book, they contact me and they want me to be their book coach. That's where my treasure is, people coming into my program, not
mm.
the book itself. So that was the first part of your question. The second part was, how does story relate to it? Well, I've already given you a story, so there you go. But also I would say weave the stories into the book. So I just made a comment before that why isn't the Bible just like a list of do's and don'ts, of how to be a good
Yeah,
Christian? Because
Exodus
really it
20
could
or
have been.
something and be done with it.
There you go. This is what you should do. If you do all this, you'll go to heaven. And if you do this set of stuff, you're going to go to hell. There you go. The book could have been done in about a 50th of the number of pages that's in the book. So why did, all these disciples and think about writing in story form?
Mm,
Because what they realize, when you write in story form, the learning beds in and faster, and it stays there for a lifetime. Sometimes people recall great stories for a lifetime, you know, in a
Yeah.
way that you can't really recall facts and figures. It's really, really difficult to recall, but stories just bed into our brains. So with my book, again, it could have been a huge list of this is how you should leverage a book, and this is how you shouldn't leverage a book. It could just be a do's and don't list. But
Right.
instead, I decided to interview my previous clients, and it's all case study based. So I'm telling stories within my book. This is what this client did with this book, and this is how he experienced it, and this is what he was doing before the book, and this is what he now does after the book, and the results of him writing a book and leveraging it correctly. It's all in story form, because I know when people read it, I don't, I do like the idea of my book being in people's reference libraries, you know, to be able to be pulled out every
Hmm.
so often. But I don't want it to be literally a dictionary where people are having to pull it out what did you say there again? What did you say there again? I actually want most of the learning to stay in their heads for a lifetime. Because if
Hmm.
they want to be an author, and like I said, because it's so difficult making a living from books themselves, I want them to understand how to leverage a business book correctly. So they're not relying on the book sales, they make money elsewhere. So I want them to remember as much as they can from my book without having to reference it every single, day or every single week. So that's why I wrote it in story form.
Awesome.
It works.
And one of the things that's interesting about that is I really appreciate how you are bringing those case studies in, that it illustrates the points that you're making. And I'm curious as to how, and maybe you're already talking about it, but I see that there's this dialogue happening in the book, and it's not just he said, she said, whatever, but it is, you're taking from your life, you're taking from your clients' lives, and you're weaving it into this book about writing a book. But it's not just about writing the book. It's not just sit down and write for 10,000 words a day or whatever, but it is how do you take this book and use it as the key to the treasure you seek. And part of that is the actual writing the book part of it, but so much of it is about, well, now that you've written this book, how do you integrate it in such a way that it becomes the key to the treasure that you seek, right?
I think it was really important because when I was researching other books on this topic, I noticed a pattern. There are some very good books on this topic, but most of them, they were talking about the why. So they were concentrating on why, if you're a coach, consultant, entrepreneur of some sort, why it's good business sense to become a business book author. And that's important. You need to know the why, but many of them weren't going into the how.
Mm.
So they're making a very good case for writing a book. And I'm pretty sure most of these authors have programs in the back end that teach you how to write a book. That's the whole point of their books. But they weren't going into the how. And that's where my book is a differentiation point, because it doesn't just go into the why you need to become an author. It actually explains how to use your book. I met so many authors, Steve, in the last year who was sold a dream, really. They were told, yeah, if you write a book, then the world will stop turning and it'll be amazing. And, so they wrote this book and they stuck it on Amazon and the world didn't stop turning. And they're like, hang on a minute, what happened here? It's like when people are sold the dream about websites. There's sadly, there are website designers out there who, not all of them, I know some amazing website designers, but there are some, sadly, who do the whole, yeah, I'll create this amazing website and it'll have this shiny thing and these shiny knobs and buttons and all this stuff. Yeah, great. But the thing is, once you've got this wonderful website up there, if you haven't discussed how you're going to get people onto the website, then it doesn't matter how amazing the website is. You're actually better off with an ugly one-page landing page. But if you've got a lot of traffic coming to it, you're going to do better on that than you're going to do on this amazing multi-page website that does all these amazing things and got AI on it and all the rest of it. But if you haven't sat there and discussed with your designer, okay, but how am I going to get traffic to it? Then there's no point, creating this amazing website. It's the same thing with a book. You can put your heart and soul into a book, but if you haven't thought further on and thought, well, what am I going to do with this book? How am I going to market it? If you don't think like that, just sticking a book on Amazon, I mean, a friend told me this, so I haven't verified this piece of information. I don't know if it's fact, but I will check it out for you. But I was told recently that roughly 3,000 books a day are uploaded on Amazon worldwide. So
That
I
doesn't
always think
surprise
of,
me,
yeah,
because
there's a
I
lot
know
of
that
people.
there are about, I don't know, there's hundreds of thousands of books that are published each year. So 300 a day doesn't seem at
But
all.
I was told 3,000. But that is
3,000 a day, but
Yeah,
yeah,
but that is worldwide. So not just Amazon.com, it's co.uk, the Australian one, the Canada one, all of them together. But still,
sure.
3,000 a day. I always think of a lot of people kind of, I think what it is they believe that Amazon is huge. Everyone knows that. And because we know that Amazon is the biggest book retailer by far in the world, I think the assumption is if you can just stick a book there, there's suddenly loads of people would see it. And I always say to people, think of Amazon like the world's biggest market. So think of an actual market that you've gone to and you have a stall in this market, but you're
Mm,
sat there with your stall and your books piled high, and literally every direction you can see, you can look at right to the horizon. There's all these other people with very similar stalls and their books on their table. How is the world going to know to come to your stall when literally everywhere that I can see, you've got all these other stores and all these other authors? And then they
absolutely.
go, yeah, I never thought. It's like, yeah, you can put the best book since the Bible on Amazon, but if you don't know how you're going to get people onto there, if you're not going to know how you're going to leverage your book and get it out to people, then you may as well have not written it, unfortunately. Unless, of course, you've written it just for prosperity. And some people do. Some people just like, right, that's different. But if you've written it because you really want eyeballs on it, you want it to take your business to the next level, you need to think about leveraging it. And that's what my book does in sort of story parable form, so you can really understand, instead of me just giving you strategies, like a list of strategies to do, which may be difficult for you to understand why you would do it a certain way.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. And as you were describing that grand market, I was thinking, and this is not something I do a lot of, but thinking about some of the either the farmers markets or the flea markets,
Yeah.
or there's a old fairgrounds down the road from where I live, where they have dozens of these stalls and you can easily get lost in there. I mean, like just literally get lost in there, because it's, one thing opens to another and there's like no sense to it. Kind of like walking inside of an IKEA where you get lost in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. They put these helpful little painted feet, don't they, to try and make sure that you get around in some sort of sense. Yeah, because otherwise it is like that, because it's so huge. It's just this huge warehouse of furniture that it's bewildering, and that's exactly the same thing that happens when you just stick a book on Amazon. And it's like, the reason my book was a success is not because I just stuck it on Amazon and just accidentally loads of people saw it. It was very deliberate, the way I launched it, the way I got in front of a lot of people. It's very deliberate things that I did to make sure that there were enough eyeballs on my book, enough people who wanted to know what was in my book to buy my book. And that's why it was a success. It wasn't something that I just stuck it on. And I think, we've been spoiled with, stories about E.L. James, the lady who wrote, 50 Shades of Grey. She was
Mm,
self-published, and but the reason why we talk about the stories is because it's so unusual.
right.
She's not even I mean, I don't know if you've read her book.
I
I
haven't.
tried reading the first book. I got about a third of the way in and I was like, I can't, Steve. I just couldn't. I feel a bit of a snob, but I was just like, I can't read this prose. It's just terrible, and I just couldn't finish it, so I put it down. But who am I to criticize all these other people thought it was amazing, so much so that she then wrote book 2 and book 3. Then
Mm,
they've all been made into movies. She never has to work again for a single day of her life now. But the reason why we love stories like that is because it's unusual. It's not the norm. And to expect that to happen is not going to happen, unfortunately. The
right.
chance is so slim. So, yeah, I wanted a book out there that really demystified business books and how to leverage them. First of all, the thing being, don't think of your book as the business. The book isn't the business. It's a lead generating and sales tool, in the same way your website is, or your social media profiles, or all these things that you use to promote your business. Your book is another tool, but a very clever tool, because most people don't have it. You think of
Mm,
the average entrepreneur, we've all got websites, we've all got social media profiles, we have landing pages, sales pages, email sequences. These are just things that are prerequisite of being an entrepreneur in 2000, well, an online entrepreneur especially, but even offline now. These are prerequisite things of just being an entrepreneur in 2021. But how many entrepreneurs are published authors? Small minority. So then that becomes a differentiation point. You can position yourself as an authority in your industry because you have something that your competitors don't, or most of your competitors don't. So that was the first thing, to understand that. And the second thing is to dispel this myth that you can just create a book and suddenly the world stops turning. That's when the hard work starts. You need to leverage your book. And my book is all about all the different ways my previous clients have leveraged their book. So I hope when someone reads it, it's a bit like, somebody paid me a really good compliment a few days ago. He just finished reading the book and he compared it to having laser eye surgery. And I was like, what? This is interesting. My book has got nothing to do with laser eye surgery or eyes in general. So what are you talking about? I said, well, I had laser eye surgery a few years ago, and I've always been extremely short-sighted since
mm,
I was a boy. And then I had laser eye surgery, and all I could describe it as is someone just wiped my eyes clean and suddenly I can see.
mm.
And it was like, that was what's reading your book. It's like, suddenly it's like, now I get what I meant to do with the book. Now I know how a book would tie in with my business and how it can take my business to the next level. Because he was very aware that writing a book is a very good thing to do as an entrepreneur. But just the pieces weren't fitting together. He was just like, yeah, but I write a book and then what? Like, there's this missing step here, you know, fame and fortune here, not written a book here. How do these two things, there's a missing bit in the middle. And then once you read my book, it's like, now I get it. Now it's like, now I know what to do. So yeah, I hope it helps people. It seems to be helping people. So I'm
Absolutely.
happy.
Well,
I'm
my
happy.
eyes are being opened too, so I don't know if it's yet to the laser surgery level,
Yeah,
but
I was a bit flummoxed when he said that. I was like, so is my book painful? Is it making your eyes gritty? Like, what's going on? What do you mean it's like laser eye surgery? But he pulled it back. When he finally explained it, I was like, I actually quite like that. So
and I can appreciate that. I remember when my parents they actually had, what is it called? Anyway, they had to have eye surgery when they were older, and I had always known them wearing glasses, right? And after their surgery, they didn't have to wear glasses anymore
oh,
because
I bet they looked weird.
it was very different. It was like, whoa, why aren't you wearing glasses? Like, how can you see me? And I've been wearing glasses since I was in 5th grade. So going without glasses is not something I don't even go like,
I wear
some people go
contacts.
like this.
You can't see. I'm the same. I've got very it's short distance. I just can't really see beyond, I would say, less than half a meter, and I've been wearing contacts for most of my life. I'm too
Mm,
scared for laser eye surgery because I keep thinking, I've been told that you can smell the burning of your And I was like, no, not again. I can't
Well,
handle that. I was told you can actually smell it. You can
oh
smell the
my.
burn
Well, it
of the
might be a few
laser
more
going
years
through.
before I do it then.
Yeah, so that just put, I was like, no, I'll stick to my contacts. Thank you very much. But I know so many people have done it and they rave about it. It's like, oh, it's amazing. And it's all done in a matter of seconds. It's done. You're like, oh, okay, finished, you know.
Wow.
So it's meant to be amazing. But yeah, that put me off when someone said you can actually smell your eyeballs burning. And I was like, oh no, I can't do that. I'm
Wow.
squeamish like that.
So another thing that stood out in what I was reading was the idea, the differentiation between not only you as the author, but the quality of clients that you end up having as an
Yeah.
author. You made the point that readers, those people who are avid readers, are a different breed from those people who are not avid readers. And I read about 100 books a year, so I'm
Oh, wow. God, you're better than me. My excuse is I'm helping people write books. I don't have a huge time to be reading books myself. I'm reading my students' books again and again and again. So, but wow, that's amazing. 100 books a year.
well, it's
I
leveraging,
aim for that, but I never get there.
it's audiobooks, and I mean it's honestly not that much time. It's just I'm pretty disciplined about it. So
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, the reason why I said that was again something that I got from my clients. You know, and it's something that I now do with my book. I've noticed the students that I've got who read my book, they are just much more coachable. I think I call it the coachable coach. It's there's something about someone who is willing to sit down and read a book. We live in such a fast world. You know, when we're on social media, we're literally bombarded with stuff, and our imagination just flits from one to the next, and we don't really spend much time on any one thing. And you know that we've been forced to become like that. So I'm not blaming anybody, but what I tend to find is someone who is willing to just shut off and just spend, even if, you know, my book can easily be read, I would say 2 to 4 hours. It's not
mhm.
War and Peace. I'm not asking you, you know, you need a week to read it. It can be done in, I would say, 2 to 4 hours. You can read the whole thing and consume all the content. So
Mhm.
I'm not asking a lot, but if you can't even do that, then chances are you're somebody who's not going to be able to stick to a program. And the thing is, when you're a coach and you're coaching people, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm a book coach, but I think this is for all kinds of coaches. This isn't just book coaches. It doesn't matter whether you're a life coach or an executive coach, a fitness coach. It doesn't really matter what kind of coaching or consulting you do. You're not there to do it for them. You're not a done for you service.
Mm.
You show people how to do it. Okay. The premise is that they will follow along what you've told them to do. And yet, I speak to any coach or consultant or mentor, and they will tell you one of the most frustrating things they have in the business is people who just don't darn well do what you've told them to do. It's like, you paid me for this expertise. I'm telling you to do this. Why aren't you doing it? Why are you procrastinating? Why? And it's frustrating. But most coaches and consultants will say, yeah, I've got at least one client that really, really grates on me because they just will not do what I tell them to do. They come up with excuses. They fight me on everything. They do the opposite of what I told them to do. And what I tend to find is when you have people who are able to sit down and read, you know, whether it's in one go or whether they do it in stages, it doesn't matter, because they could be exceptionally busy, so they can only read for 15 minutes every night or something. That's fine. But the commitment that they give to themselves, I'm going to get through this book and get this learning into my brain, they're just much more coachable. And I've found that the people who read my book and come into my program, they're much easier to handle. They get better results with me. They become published authors in a shorter time than the others, because their personality trait is that I'm open to learning from you and I want to do the best in this program.
Mm.
Whereas people who haven't necessarily read my book tend to cause problems within my program. And I kind of have to almost get them to the finishing point, kicking and screaming sometimes, you know. But that's my job as a book coach, to get a book out of you. You know, that's what you signed up for. But it can be exhausting for me. And sometimes I do think, oh God, I should charge a lot more for what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't sign up. I'm your book coach. It's like a fitness coach, who's, someone is paying them to get them fit, but they're refusing to do sit-ups, or they're refusing to go for a run, or when the coach turns up at the door, say like, come on, let's go for a jog. And then the excuses come out. Oh, my dog's ill. Oh, and it's like, you're paying me for this. You can't, just paying a fitness coach will not melt the fat. What they can do is help you melt the fat, but you've got to actually do it. And it's the same thing as a book coach. I can give you by far, I believe, the easiest system for writing a business book. But I'm not going to write the darn thing for you. You have to pay me a hell of a lot of money for that. People used to pay me tens of thousands of dollars as a ghostwriter. You're getting a bargain in the first place. I'm not going to write the book for you. You have to write it yourself. So it can be very frustrating. It's got to the point now where I don't actually take on new clients now unless they've read my book. So either they're coming through my book, or if they've come through other means, maybe they've seen me on social media, or they've been recommended by somebody. I have like a quick 15-minute call with them, and then I just say, go and get the book. And I always make sure the book is inexpensive. So, they can get the Kindle for like $1.99 or $2.99, something, silly like that. And the paperback is always priced at whatever Amazon charges me to print and mail out to somebody. So I'm barely making profits, and that's the idea. So then no one can accuse me of, oh, you're just pushing people to the book because you want to make money from the book. It's like, no, the book is very inexpensive, but you will do a lot better if you read the book first and then come and speak to me about your book idea, and let's have a longer consultation and see if you're ready for my program. And I found that by doing that, first of all, it gets rid of time wasters. That's another thing. It filters out a lot of time wasters. I speak to a lot of coaches, a lot of consultants whose, their conversion rates will be, say they speak to 100 people, they'll convert maybe 5 people or 6 people. So the automatic assumption is, I need to get better at sales. I need to get better on sales calls. I need to know how to close them. Now, it could be that there could be elements of that. Coaches and consultants were notoriously terrible at sales. We don't really like being salesy and selling. I find it really icky. So there is elements of learning how to do sales calls. But the other element that a lot of people don't realize is, but it's garbage in, garbage out. If you're getting 100 leads, but 100 leads doesn't mean anything. How targeted are they? If they're just coming from all over the place, then it may be that your calls are absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong that you're doing, but you're getting garbage leads coming into your business. So of course, if you get 100 of them, you're lucky if you convert 5. But you're not going to get garbage leads from a book. Someone's actually read your book, took time to go through it, really understand it, understand you, and like you as a person as well. We spoke earlier about putting a lot of yourself into it and your stories and that kind of thing. By the time they've even come to your call, A, they're pre-sold to you as a person and they like you, and B, they're coachable. There's somebody who's like, I know your processes. I'm really excited to work with you. Then it becomes a case of just crossing the T's and dotting their I's. And usually finances. Some people really, really want to work with you, but they just don't have the money yet. So all you can do is just give them a little bit of help and then set them on their way. And hopefully at some point they will have the money to work with you. But the selling kind of almost, it falls to the side. I enjoy my calls now. I couldn't even call them sales calls now, Steve, because I don't sell on them. The book's done the selling. It's really more of a case of, are they suitable for me? Another key thing I look for is their business ready for a book? I've turned away, I think 2 people at least a month, I turn away from my program. Not because I don't think they'd be terrible authors. I know they'd be very good authors, but their business isn't ready. It's a bit like someone sending you a ton of traffic from SEO or from social media, and your website isn't ready to handle that. either your website crashes or it just doesn't convert because there's nothing on there that's going to really convert those visitors into customers. Well, it's the same thing. You have this book out there, and then you're going to start leveraging a book. If your business isn't ready, if you don't have the programs in place, the upsells, all the things that you need, a good business structure, if you don't have that all in place, then the book could do very well, but like I said, the book isn't the treasure. It's the key to the treasure. And if you haven't mapped out what the treasure is going to be, you're going to flounder. So I turn people away for that reason, because they'll tell me about their business. So I just say, okay, you need to speak to me at the end of the year, because your business has just started. You haven't finalized what services definitely you're going to offer. You haven't structured it out. What is going to be your core program? What is going to be the upsell? Do you have a downsell? You need to have all those things in place before you do the book. So it becomes more, I always hate the fact that people disguise sales calls and they call it something else. It's a strategy call. Or what's the other one?
Discovery call. Yeah.
There's another one that's even worse. Oh, I've forgotten what it is. Oh, I've forgotten what it is. It's my mind's gone blank. But they use all these names, and it's a sales call.
Yeah.
It's essentially a sales call. Someone's going to try and close you at the end of the call. That's what's going to happen. But they will use other names for it to make it seem less threatening. And yet, when you use a book, the calls genuinely become strategy calls or discovery calls. They become genuine calls because you're not selling, because the book's done the selling for you. It is more about strategy. So I'm talking about, okay, wave magic wand, 3 months down the line, you're now a published author. Yay. Now what? What are you doing? And then they go, oh, well, yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about creating a program. Yeah, well, you need to create a program now, not thinking about creating a program. Because once the book is out, the program needs to be there, ready to take on students. So you need to be thinking about what your business looks like before we start writing your book. So it becomes a genuine strategy call, as opposed to an excuse, just to hide the fact that this is a sales call. Where we all hate sales calls, so let's call them something different. What was the other name? There was something I don't like. I hate discourage strategy. I don't mind, but I don't like it because it's not really a strategy call. It is a sales call. I've been on a number of these strategy calls, and within 5 minutes I've realized someone's trying to sell me stuff, and the pitch is going to start in a minute, and I'm waiting for the pitch to happen. Discovery call, I hate. Discovering what you want to discover someone's wallet? That must be what they really mean. It's like, and there's another one that's worse, but my mind's gone blank. It's really annoying. I bet once I get off this, it'll suddenly come to me and I'll message like, Steve, I remembered what it was. But there's another word that's even worse than discovery, and it just makes me groan inside when I hear it. But yeah, the wonderful thing is, use your book and it becomes a genuine strategy call, discovery call, because you're not selling, you're not closing. That person is pre-sold to you.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it. And it means I'm now having less sales calls, if you want to call them sales calls. I don't have many sales calls now, but the ones I do have, nearly all of them convert. Nearly all of them go, yeah. And like I said, the ones that don't convert, it's to do with they just genuinely don't have the money to work with me. And that's, you got to just love those people and get them and give them some help that you can give them. And hopefully at some point they will be in a position to work with you. Or like I said, their business is not ready yet. So I give them almost like homework to do. It's like, you go and do that for the next few months, get this in place, then get back in touch with me and let's talk again. Otherwise, they convert to students because they're pre-sold. They already like me. They know what I'm about. They want to work with me. It becomes so much easier, especially for someone like me who hates sales and sales calls and all that kind of stuff. It's great.
Wow. Well, thank you, Mitali, for sharing all this wisdom. You're just a treasure trove yourself of information, not only on how to write the book, but really how to use the book to unlock the treasure on the other side. So thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm a big believer in practicing what I preach. So you'll see me doing that. I mean, one of the tactics I talk about is disseminating your book into a ton of social media posts, because a lot of people say, I don't know what to write. I know I'm meant to show up on social media every single day, apparently, but I don't know what to write every single day. You've written a book, that's like you've got like nearly 6 months worth of content in a book. So I've in this wonderful lady I'm working with who's actually just recently disseminated my book, and I think she's pulled out nearly 150 different posts already, and she hasn't finished the book.
Hmm.
And that's all kinds of posts. It's not just long form posts to go on Facebook and LinkedIn, but ideas that can be turned into images for Instagram and Pinterest and that kind of thing. And yeah, you'll start seeing my book everywhere on social media. So yeah, there's, I would always say, if you've ever wanted to write a business book, first of all, get the Freedom Master Plan. That will really, I'm going to quote my friend, it's like laser eye surgery for books. Oh, that sounds painful, doesn't it? But yeah,
And
it will really
I'll
open.
second that too, is that, most books will talk about writing the book. This book actually talks about how to use that book to unlock the treasure. How
Yeah.
do you actually leverage it in order to create the business and the freedom that you want, right?
Yeah. That's why I call it the Freedom Master Plan. Because when I was interviewing all these coaches and consultants last year, the word freedom just kept coming up again and again and again in different contexts, but it kept coming up again. And so some people saying, I'm sick of clients. We've already talked about this, frustrating clients who don't, do what you tell them to do. You can gain freedom from that by using a book. And we discussed how to use a book to gain freedom from that. And so we just talk about social media. Some people feel like literally that's all they're doing in their business. Like, I'm meant to be on social media every single day, but I just get blinking cursor syndrome. I don't know what to write, and then I'm meant to show up every single day and run my business at the same time. How do I do that? How do I do social media and run my business at the same time? And it, again, my book goes into how you can use your book itself to be on social media, on all the major platforms. Yeah, I hope it helps people, because I'm sick and tired of meeting authors who were sold that dream that, you can just write a business book and then that's it. The world will change and, you'll be rich forever. And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. You have to know how to leverage that book correctly. That's where it is. And I hope my book helps people to do that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I have two last questions for you.
Yes.
One, what makes for a richer story? So that's the first question. And I'll ask the second one after you respond to that.
Okay, because I've got, yeah, my memory's terrible, so I would have forgotten which I would have asked you to repeat it anyway. Okay, so what makes a richer story? I think it's putting you into it. I always say, I'm a big sci-fi fan, so that's my thing. I would even watch, put it this way, I'd rather watch a terrible sci-fi movie or read a terrible sci-fi book than read a mediocre romance fiction. Or, you know what I mean? Even though the writing is better, I love sci-fi, even when it's terrible. I just love it.
Mm,
However, with sci-fi, what I tend to find the biggest mistake that happens, especially with films, I would say, is they concentrate too much on the visuals. Now, yeah, visuals are important, and one of my favorite movies, probably is my favorite movie of the last 10 years, is Interstellar.
mm,
And the visuals on that, I watched that at the pictures, and I was just like, literally in the back of my seat going, oh my God, my favorite bit is the wall, the wall of the wave that they land on this planet, which is just
mm,
all ocean, but
mm.
really, but it's only like about 2 feet deep. But then it creates these wall of tsunami that comes at them, and I just remember watching this wall of water coming, when I was at the pictures, and it was just amazing. But that wasn't why I loved Interstellar. It was because I fell in love with the characters. The central story was a father-daughter story and the
Mm.
bond between father and daughter. So yeah, it was amazing. And they go off on this rocket and then they end up going through this wormhole and all of this stuff's amazing. But really, why you care about the story is because of the story between the father and the daughter. And that's why it works. It wasn't special effects. The special effects magnified it, but at the heart of it is a very human story full of emotion. And that's how you make any story rich. You can add all the bells and whistles if you want afterwards, but if you miss out that human thing right at the center, the bells and whistles, it's a bit like Christmas dinner, or for you guys it'll be Thanksgiving dinner, where you've made all the best vegetables and everything and someone's forgotten the turkey, and you're going,
Which
you
for you would be no
know,
problem, right?
well, I'm vegan, so I mean, there's no turkey. I'm happy. It's one less turkey that was murdered, so I'm happy, to be honest. But I think everybody else will be like, "Where's the turkey?"
Right.
You can't have Thanksgiving, or in our case in the UK, we have turkey. I don't personally, of course, but traditionally we have turkey for Christmas, and everyone will be like, "How did you forget the turkey? The other stuff we can just about do without, but the turkey is central." It's the same thing to have a rich story. You've got to put something human in there. So put yourself in there. You can talk about your clients like I've done. You can talk about your family, your friends. Do get permission, of course. Don't just write about them without getting permission. But put real people, put you into the story. That's what makes it rich. Otherwise, like, as I've watched movies where it's just all amazing effects, but at the end of it, you still feel cheated because you didn't feel any emotional connection there. It
Mm,
was just, the spectacle of it all, and that's it.
right. So last question, how do people connect with you and learn more about this Freedom Master Plan?
Yeah, well, it's quite simple. Just go over to my website, my author website. It's called thefreedommasterplan.com. You would expect. So yeah, just go to thefreedommasterplan.com. If you go there, you can download the first chapter for free. So, just download it, see if you like it. Actually, the first chapter is what we discussed about clients. And, the first chapter is, pretty much dedicated to coaches who are like, oh my God, I'm sick of my clients. They do me my head in, but I can't get rid of them because they pay the bills, but they're so frustrating. That first chapter is dedicated to how to leverage your book so you get your dream clients, and also how to use your dream clients to get them to refer you to more dream clients,
Mm,
so get almost like a snowball effect happening where you're only attracting the right people into your business. And then if you like that, there is a link on the website that will take you directly to the right Amazon for your country. So if you're in the US, it'll go to Amazon.com. If you're elsewhere, it'll go to the right Amazon, and you can get the book on Kindle and paperback. So I
awesome.
would say if you're interested in writing a book, or maybe you're not interested in writing a book, but you thought about it, but then you just couldn't figure out, like this guy who said it was like, laser eye surgery. He was like, yeah, but it sounds like a lot of hard work and I'm not really seeing how it fits into my business. Go and read the book and look at through all the strategies and the stories, and then you'll be able to make your mind up whether writing a book is a good idea or not. It may
Awesome.
not be. I've yet to meet someone where it isn't, but it may not be. So my book would be a good way for you, an inexpensive way to find out whether it's a good idea or not. And if it's not a good idea, you just saved yourself a ton of money, So
And
if you
time and
read it and you go,
energy.
yep, definitely this doesn't fit my business, or it doesn't fit my personality, that's great, because to publish a book to professional standards, several $1,000s, just warning you.
Yeah,
So it can be, if you don't know what you're doing with the book and you don't know how it fits into your business, you could have wasted a lot of money,
mm,
so yeah.
awesome. Thank you, Mitali. And for those of you who are joining us, remember that every Tuesday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and 5 British summertime.
Yes, it is. It's 5 p.m. Well, it's 6 now, so because we've been on for an hour. Gosh, that went fast. Yeah, 5
So
p.m.
we bring
BST.
in these experts like Mitali in order to help you create a richer story for your business and your life. Until we meet again, be the bright light in someone's dark night. Ta-ta.